Hey YouTube, it's Kofi and I'm back with another video about being Black and autistic. Don't forget to like and subscribe and please share with your friends. It helps me out a lot. Bonnet appreciation. I'll be doing this video in my bonnet. This is what, if you don't already know, a lot of Black people wear around their hair, particularly at night, to keep the moisture in and so that your curls don't rub against the rough cotton pillow sheet and cause friction and break your hair. So it's good for your hair. If you have Black hair, you should wear one. Being autistic and Black is a particularly unique struggle. You're already Black, and then you're autistic on top of it. It's already this whole double minority thing going on, and then on top of that, you might be a woman, or you might be trans, or you might be another part of the LGBTQIA community. It's already hard to be Black, and especially in America, everywhere, but in America, and then to be Black and autistic on top of it. You should be proud of yourself if you're Black and autistic. You've been through a lot already, I know. The first thing I'd like to discuss is being Black and autistic and not understanding the social hierarchies and authority within your family. In the Black community, there is a high standard of respect to which you must give your parents and your elders. Black autistic people are often called disrespectful because there are so many of us who are blunt in communication. I'm like that. And being too straight to the point is considered rude. Why it's considered rude? I think the reason behind neurotypicals calling straight to the point communication and bluntness as rude, I think it's because they don't want to feel like they're just getting straight to the task. I think they want to feel coddled in thought by the other person. As a result, setting boundaries, especially with family, often does not go well because it is also seen as being disrespectful, and so is questioning authority. If you've ever been Black and questioned authority within your family, you'll know what I'm talking about. It will be seen as talking back. It will be seen as being sassy when you're honestly just trying to understand. Having a meltdown or being angry will also be seen as being extra, being unreasonable, being spoiled or a brat. These standards are just heightened when you're a Black person because there is a high standard for which you must act as a Black person. The way we navigate society, we already have to mask. We already have to think about the way we're being perceived by other people. If you're having sensory issues and you're having a meltdown or a shutdown, you'll probably be viewed as being disrespectful. Just because if you have a bad attitude all of a sudden, having a bad attitude towards an elder in your family is considered disrespectful because it's like you always have to be, I don't want to say subservient, but kind of. Being Black and autistic is so exhausting because trying to escape the stereotypes constantly and trying to understand what the world expects from you constantly as a Black person can be very confusing. Your gender role, which many autistic people often don't identify with. The way you are being perceived by others is at the forefront of your mind when you're Black. It is especially in front of the police. And by the way, police officers have not had a good history with interacting with Black people or autistic people, and particularly not Black autistic people. It can be very dangerous for an autistic Black person to interact with the police if they are having sensory issues or they are overwhelmed, which may be the issue if you are pulled over by police, if you are in that situation. There are autistic people who have died at the hands of police brutality, and as we know, there are many Black people who have died at the hands of police brutality. I encourage you to research that further. Now let's talk a little bit about code switching. There is a construct comparable to that of masking in the autistic community. Code switching. Code switching is used to describe how Black people communicate with other Black people or people they're friendly with, performing a vernacular depending on your environment. If you're Black, you probably won't talk to your boss the same way you talk to your family member. Sometimes when I explain to another Black person who is not autistic what masking is like, I'm like, no, I'm not being manipulative and cruel. I'm not evil. I'm not two-faced. It's like code switching. When you code switch in front of another Black person, it feels kind of relaxed, more informal. Like I said, you wouldn't talk to your boss the same way you talk to a family member, right? Being neurodivergent in the Black community can make you feel so ostracized. Maybe you talk a certain way or have different mannerisms physically. We know we like to stim, we like our body-focused repetitive behaviors. I have my stim toy right here, my Tangle. It feels so good. Grab a stim toy if you don't have one right now. You may dress differently from your family and those around you, and when you're different, someone is going to point it out, whether it's in the form of a joke, which is often code for a snide comment that is at your expense, or through roasting. Roasting someone means that you know how to be tactfully mean and snarky without being mean-spirited and poking fun at someone, teasing, ruthlessly ridiculing, trash-talking, and even mocking them. And some will insist that they don't do that, but I am positive that's what's going on. Even if it isn't mean-spirited, it still has its effects. And unwarranted or unexpected, the jokes can be very harmful for autistic people. If you react negatively to their criticisms, then you may be treated like you're being unreasonable or that you're too sensitive. Autistic people are often called too sensitive. Black women and Black people are often called too sensitive. Being Black at the doctor is difficult, particularly if you don't have a Black doctor, especially if you identify as a woman. Black women are often ignored at the doctor because we are seen as, is it the stereotype that we're strong and independent? Like, oh, she's probably not in that much pain. Or is it just that they dismiss our pain? So many Black women have died under the care of doctors because their pain and their symptoms were ignored. There is no reason for that. We are human, just like you. Being Black and autistic at the doctor is hard because many doctors already ignore Black people. They ignore Black women concerning their pain and discomfort, but that discrimination is escalated when you have autism, similar to that of autism and the police. Imagine you're Black and autistic and an officer is like, put your hands up, or maybe they're not, maybe they don't draw their gun, okay? Maybe they're just pulling you over. And you step out of the car and you're so uncomfortable that you just start stimming. What is that officer gonna think? They're probably gonna be like, oh, that Black person's on drugs, or that person, there's something wrong with them mentally. And there isn't. It's just the way we express ourselves. One thing that I think is important to recognize is that there is ableism in the Black community. Just like how there's sexism, there's homophobia, and there's transphobia in the Black community. Now, one big issue with being Black and autistic, it's the hair. It's the expectation to always have your hair done. This is a standard in the Black community as well. Hair is a very important part of our culture because of, if you look throughout the decades, the way our trends have changed. The big afro in the 70s, the perfectly cut, smooth, rounded afro from the 70s, which is I'm a big fan of, or the wearing twist outs of today, or the permed hair of the 2000s, which let's talk about perms for a minute. My hair was permed from when I was a little girl until I was 18, and then I went natural. It was a horrible experience not going natural to perm. Perms, they itch, they burn, and hot irons were an issue as well for me and my sensory issues. The heat of flat irons and the fear that I would be burned was something that was always looming over my mind. Once I went to the beautician and I was burned on my ear by the outer edge of a flat iron, and I never forgot about that experience. I was very young when it happened. The steam and the heat on the back of my neck was so uncomfortable. Also, if you're sitting under the dryer and it's just hot air constantly blowing down your back and your body, it's really awful to be going through with. And I'd be at the salon for 5 or more hours. It would take a really long time. Once I got burned on the side of my ear by my beautician who was flat ironing my hair, I thought that would be enough for me to no longer have to do that to my hair. I thought maybe that would just be like, oh, that's it, she burned me. That sucked, but at least now I will never ever have to go to the beauty shop again, because that's egregious. Like, you shouldn't do that to a person. A person shouldn't have to go through with that for their hair. But that wasn't it at all. The social standard around me was very much that I still had to go to the beauty shop and I still had to perm my hair. I just did not understand why I had to have my hair straightened. Why could my white friends wear their hair the way it naturally grew from theirs and I couldn't? So I just suffered under the social pressure of my parents and by society of having to have my hair done, and I just thought there must be another way. So when I turned 18, went to college, and I chopped off all my hair and I went natural, and it was the first time I'd ever seen my hair in its natural state. It was a great experience for me. I enjoyed it as an autistic person because my hair was very short at the time and I didn't have to manage it a whole lot. And I've since learned how to grow my natural hair. The point is, you should keep your hair in a way that brings you joy, and you should do your hair in a way that won't overstimulate you and cause you pain. There's another way. If perming is much easier for you and you like that you don't have to do all the natural hair stuff, or if you like to keep it permed and short, some women like to do that, and it's a much simpler job for them and it's cute. It's not a big deal. Just wear it in a way that is comfortable for you, because you're gonna have to do it over and over again. And if you're constantly doing it in a way that is draining you, I don't think that's serving you at all. I think it's going to be, it's going to cause impairment for your mental health because of how awful the experience is. And you don't have to suffer through that. Just do your hair in a way that's comfy. So, I have sensory issues with getting my hair done, as I've explained. You may have been called tender-headed growing up, like I was, but I wasn't tender-headed. I had sensory issues because I was autistic. I think that's just another way of saying you're autistic in the Black community, is calling someone tender-headed. I hated having my hair done as a little girl. The feeling of another person pulling on your scalp. You know, if you grew up a Black girl, you're like sitting between your mom's legs or your grandma's legs, whoever did your hair, and they're all up in your scalp. They're pulling on your hair. You can feel it. You can feel it pulling. It's so uncomfortable. They've got all kinds of scents going on, the stuff they're putting in your hair. Maybe they have a water bottle and it's spraying you, and you hate that sound and that feeling of the cold water on your skin. And they're taking like the grease and they're putting it in your hair, and maybe they have a hot comb. I don't know what you've got going on, but there are a lot of sensory issues that go into doing your hair, is my point, especially when you're Black, because either you're natural and you've got a lot of different products to use, or Maybe you've got your hair straightened and you've got a perm to use or a flat iron to use. Maybe you have locks, which I actually find a great idea for autistic people, is having locks, because you've got the retwist. Hopefully you can find someone who can do them comfortably for you, or you learn how to do them yourself. But I think that's what I want to do. I'm just going to grow out my hair until it's so long I can no longer take care of it, and then just lock it. But I'm going to find a comfortable way to do it. You better believe it. It is important to consider the full range of the experience, of the autistic experience while being Black, because when we are represented in the media, it's always a white person. It's always a white autistic person. It's never a Black autistic person. And in shows, I don't think I've ever seen a Black autistic person in a show. I've never seen a Black autistic person in a show. Oh wait, there was one. On Degrassi, there was an autistic guy, but especially in the beginning, he was such a stereotype. So we don't have any good Black autistic representation, let's say that, in the media. It's important to consider our experience, because our experience has been ignored by doctors. A lot of us, our entire lives, if you weren't doing self-injurious behavior, or if you weren't disruptive as a young autistic Black child, you probably weren't diagnosed. You probably went undiagnosed. That's what happened to me. There's no reason to punish children for not being disruptive. There's no reason to punish us like that. What's going on in the psychology community, that these doctors don't know how to detect for autism? Or is it that it doesn't even cross our minds to detect it when you're Black? I'm unsure, but let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video. I really hope that we can cultivate a nice community where we exchange thoughts and ideas, and let me know in the comments of some other topics you'd like to do. We can do a part 2 of this video. Here's my question to Black autistic people. Do you think being ashy can be a sensory issue? I know that being ashy is inherently uncomfortable, but some people don't seem to mind it. And I know I can't stand it. And I think it's because I'm autistic. Let me know in the comments.